Hey guys, so we're here with Megan Ramos, and she is Tony Ramos's wife, and he is the assistant coach at the University of North Carolina. Okay, Megan, so how did you and Tony meet?
We met actually, so his freshman year, and I was a junior at Iowa. I played volleyball at Iowa, and I had torn my ACL, and he had knee surgery at a similar time. So we both spent a lot of time in the training room at Carver. But like all classic love stories, he didn't actually talk to me in person in the training room. He would message me on Facebook like afterwards. So that's how we started talking.
I love that. And it's funny that you say that because Jessica Scott and Allie Rochelle both said that they started talking to their significant others through Facebook as well, right? That's just great. Okay, so I heard that y'all's first date was at a Witch Witch. Can you tell me how that date went?
Yeah. Well, first I had to make it very clear that our first date would be at Witch Witch in the middle of the day, and we would both pay for ourselves. So that tells you what a first date it was, right?
I love it.
But yeah, it was kind of awkward. I don't know. I left and I was like, oh, that was awkward. I told my friends, and Tony texted me and was like, that was the best lunch. Like, you're so easy to talk to. That was awesome. But then, he's just so persistent and not in like a creepy way, but in like a, hey, what are you doing? Studying. Can I come over later? If you want. And then like the more time we spend together, it's obviously evolved. But it's fun because we still go to Witch Witch every year on our anniversary.
Oh, that is sweet. Do you guys take the kids when y'all go?
Yeah.
Oh, what an awesome memory to share with them. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you have a background in wrestling at all prior to meeting Tony?
No, like I said, I was a junior at Iowa, and I had never been to a wrestling meet, even at Iowa, and it was just not even part of my world ever. So the first meet I actually went to was with Tony when he was a red shirt. So that was as experienced as I was to start.
So what did you think? I can't even imagine my first duel being at Carver. That's such an intense atmosphere. What were your feelings about being, kind of immersed in that atmosphere?
I think it was an easy atmosphere to get into wrestling because one year at Carver, two, it was like the 09-10 season, which is they won. And so it was just a really exciting year. And even though I was like, I have no idea what's happening, the crowd, everything, it was really good as that is my first experience because, some of the other things I've been to might have been more of a turnoff.
No, absolutely. I can relate to that. I'm sure it was kind of enthralling to see just the intensity and the passion coming from all the fans. That is an awesome first experience to have at a wrestling meet. Okay, so you mentioned that you were an athlete at Iowa. You played volleyball. How did you balance being a Division I athlete yourself while also trying to be a girlfriend and support Tony in college?
Well, it was pretty easy because they're opposite seasons. So it was really a partnership right from the start, which is, I mean, why our relationship has been so successful because it was a partnership. When I was in season, he did his own meals and extra laundry and all that. And then when wrestling season hit and my time was slow, then I took over all that extra stuff. So, his food was ready and it was something we did for each other. So it wasn't as much as balance. And it was also nice that I graduated 2 years before him. So once I was working and, out of the college volleyball and stuff, and I could support him even more with like having money to buy better food or traveling to away meets and stuff. So it really worked out well. It was a good tone that was set for the rest of our relationship for sure. Cause he never thought that his goals were more important than mine. Like we were partners for real.
I love that. And I love how you use the word partners and teamwork. That really gives me some insight into you guys' relationship. And I like that you also said that, during volleyball season, he would kind of help pick up in the areas that you needed help in. And then in return, during wrestling season, you would help him and pick up in the areas that he needed in. That's really beautiful. And thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, so Tony recently stepped off of the mat for the final time as a competitor in May of 2019. How was the transition from athlete to coach, and what were some differences that you noticed in Tony?
I probably have to say, to preface that, is that he kind of had one foot out the door for a little bit. He got put on staff, I think the fall before that. He was a volunteer and of course like super involved in the team, but he got put on staff that fall and you could just see a shift in him. Like before, I had a coach that used the phrase like made his heart go boom. Like wrestling and competing made his heart go boom. And we were slowly seeing a transition where it was less competing and more working with his athletes. Like he wanted to give the time. And so at one point he was trying to be a full-time coach, trying to be a full-time athlete. Also, we had 3 kids, 3 and under. So that's another thing in itself. So it was just like at some point we had to sit down and be like, right now at this point, it was in the fall, right before his retirement. He said, right now at this point, you have to choose something. Like you can't wrestle and coach and be a dad all the season. Like you need to take a break and start training later, because I was felt like I was over my head. I know he felt like areas were suffering because he just couldn't give the time to everything he wanted. So he was kind of one foot out the door, but anyone that knows him will know he likes to kind of put on a show. So I think that last season was just a little bit of showmanship, and he just wanted to end on a bang, and he did. So
That's awesome. I love it. I like that you use the word makes his heart go boom to describe it, or the phrase. That gives me a little bit of insight how much passion he truly has for the sport, which you can clearly see when you look at pictures of him coaching, or, you know, old video footage of him wrestling. Really is truly just as passionate as you see. And I like that. Okay, so how has he been able to use his experiences in wrestling to help relate to the athletes that he is coaching?
I think that one's pretty like look at just like the coaching environment in general. How many really successful wrestlers go on to be really successful coaches? I mean, I'm not saying you have to be a successful wrestler to be a successful coach, but there's definitely a correlation. It just makes it easier to buy in. Like, I'm telling you this because I was there. I know what it's like to fail. I know what it's like to come back from failure. I know what it's like to not be where you're at and have to jump levels. And I think that's one thing. And I think the other thing is just like he was always a very technical wrestler. And so he gets his athletes that may be a little funky and add some like really solid technique. And, you know, you kind of get the best of both worlds there. So I think that's kind of two-way answer.
So how would you say that you help him in relation to that? Because you were also a D1 athlete. So I'm sure you can give some inside perspective as well. You think that he comes to you specifically with and is like, hey, Megan, like, I know you're better at this perspective. Can you give me some insight?
He runs a lot by me, and we actually talk about coaching and his athletes way more than we did when he was competing. Like people used to ask all the time, like, do you guys just talk about wrestling? I'm like, pretty much no. Like he comes home, we eat dinner, how's practice? Great. Okay. You know, it was never really like we just sit down and like talk about everything. It was, I mean, of course you do, but it wasn't like our whole world. And I would say much more now that he's coaching is like bouncing things off me, even if he just wants me to sit and listen, or sometimes he just wants me to agree with him, or, you know, but I will always say if I don't. So yeah, it's a lot. He definitely involves me, and obviously that makes me feel pretty empowered. So it's been working.
No, that's awesome. And I definitely think it's been working. I mean, UNC's program is definitely on the rise. They're making big moves. It's pretty exciting to watch as a wrestling fan. So, how do you like Chapel Hill?
Who? Chapel Hill is I was born in the Midwest. We lived in Iowa for 8 years. I'm a Midwesterner for sure. So, like I said, the rain in the winter kind of is a turnoff. Sometimes I can't breathe because of the heat, but not. It's a really nice environment. It's a great place to raise a family. The campus is beautiful. It's awesome. it's not Iowa City, but I'm impartial.
Okay, so with that being said, in Iowa City, Tony is a big deal in the sport of wrestling. He's a fan favorite. And I'm sure that you guys would, when you guys would go out in public, that people would stop to say hello. Is that different in Chapel Hill?
Yes. Yes. And I know Tony misses it because he loved that part. He loved it. We lived right by Coral Ridge Mall, and we would always be at the mall, like, oh, let's just go walk around the mall. We are always at the mall. And like every time we went, someone would stop. I've taken so many pictures of him at the mall. Like, it's crazy. But he loved it. He loved that. And I won't say he never gets recognized, because he does, like, especially at airport. It's crazy. The wrestling community is so special in that, it's small but mighty. So yeah, it's different. It's an adjustment, but this culture change has helped, and we're excited the way things are moving. So
Absolutely. And I love your phrase there, small but mighty. I'm going to have to use that. That is a beautiful way to describe the wrestling community. Okay, so y'all have 3 young kids, like you said, Lincoln, AJ, and Calla. How has the transition been for you, juggling being a coach's wife and a mom?
I'm kind of, besides like the one-on-one stuff with Tony, I'm kind of failing as a coach's wife, I will say. That's definitely one of the areas that I need to work on, because I'm going to use Jenny Brands as an example, because she is like dream wrestling wife.
She's Superwoman.
I know. I just, I grew up when I was going through college, after college, like how good she is with her athletes, the parents, like she just balances everything so well, like knows all their names on a personal level, can say a little anecdote, like it's amazing. And I am nowhere near that point. Like, I'm still working on names. It's just been hard. I've always got the kids with me. I'm trying to have a conversation. They're trying to jump off bleachers, and so that's definitely an area I've been struggling in. But it's always one of my goals. Like, I'm gonna learn a few new people and a few new things about them. I'm gonna talk to some parents at this meet, which is painful for me because I'm very introverted, and like I feel like I have no energy left from the kids. And then I'm like, oh, talking to people. But so it's been really challenging, and I always, if there's ever a toss-up, I always pick the mom part. And if I need to stay home and do the mom things, I do the mom things. So it's a work in progress, is I guess what I would say.
But I thank you for the candor and the honesty, because I think probably a lot of wrestling wives can relate to that and understand that it's kind of hard to balance being a mom and taking care of the kids, and trying to also be a coach's wife, and then also trying to still be yourself, and leave something for you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So with that being said, what are some ways that you interact with the wrestlers or the wrestling team?
Depending on the time of year and stuff, we have small groups over for dinner, and that's more my cup of tea. And then, the kids love it, and it's an easy way to get to know people. But, now that even AJ's only 4 and he's got soccer on one night, gymnastics on one night, wrestling on one night, and like there are not enough days to have people over. So that's one way that I really like that, and we need to do it more often. But that's something. And then, I mean, we head up to practice often, especially during season when, time is lacking. So we head up to the room, talk to the guys. My kids are my leeway. They're like, hey, who, they know all the names. And I'm like, hi.
That's awesome. I love it. Oh, that's great. So the kids are obviously growing up around the wrestlers. How will y'all handle introducing them to wrestling in their own right?
So AJ's been asking, he's our oldest, he's 4. He's been asking around. And then this fall, we finally thought he had like the attention and the discipline to sit through a practice. So he started in the fall. He goes once a week, if it's a good week for everyone. And he seems to love it. Try to have no pressure. He's not going to compete for a few years at least. He doesn't even know all the rules yet. It's very introductory. So we kind of let him, he wanted to, and then when we thought he was ready is when he started. Lincoln, I don't know. He's kind of a wild card. I have no idea. Their personalities are very different, but we kind of let them lead what they like. You know, they got to find what they like. So there's no pressure. But you know, when the kids are in the room constantly, they're watching wrestling constantly. They want to be wrestlers. So we're gonna just let it ride, I guess.
No, absolutely. It's also kind of in their blood too,
Yeah.
which is kind of hard to deny. I know that AJ, you said AJ is the oldest, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So does he have any idea how big of a deal his dad is in the wrestling world?
I don't think so, because the last national championships, when he really loves Yanni. And so when Yanni won, and he was like, oh, he only wanted to talk about Yanni, and Yanni's a national champion, and Yanni this, Yanni that. And then Tony pulls out his like NCAA championship awards, and he's like, look, AJ. And AJ's like, oh, you have one like Yanni. And Tony like called people to get a clip, to get the match on video, and made the boys sit and watch it.
That is awesome.
So yeah, they don't know. And he's like, no, I was a national champ.
That's great. Oh man, I wish you could have recorded that.
I know.
Okay, so what is something about Tony that most people don't know?
Man, probably. Well, one good one that I like to throw out, because I didn't know this until a few years into our relationship, is that he was his high school mascot.
That's awesome.
He was a Panther. Football games, pep rallies, he was their mascot. And actually, I coached high school volleyball for a season after I graduated college. And we made a deal that if we made it to state, he would dress up as the high school mascot and lead the pep rally. And he did. So
that is awesome. Oh my goodness. I can see his personality being extremely fitting with a mascot. That is.
Yeah, and he can easily fit into the costumes.
That's great. So if you had one piece of advice to give a young couple dating, and the guy is an athlete, wrestler, what would you say to the girl?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say, I mean, obviously offer your unwavering support, and don't offer too much advice unless asked for it.
That's a good one. That is very important. Oh, that was great. So on a good note, if you had to describe Tony in just one short sentence, what would you say?
I would just say that he loves wrestling, he loves coaching, and he loves his family, and everything he does in life daily reflects that.
That is perfect. Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you so much for doing this for the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Dan Gable Museum. We appreciate it, Megan.